Welcome to today's episode of Tweaking Tips for Shopify, where we dive deep into different tips and strategies on how to tweak your website to get more sales. My name is Sagar, and joining me today is Jackie Piper from British Color Standard. Jackie and I have been working for the past 7 years. She runs multiple wholesale and retail online stores, selling homewares that are sustainable, eco friendly, and fair trade. I'm very excited to have you here on my podcast, Jackie. Welcome.
Very nice to be here, Sagar. Thank you.
Okay, so before we get into the tips and strategies on how people can grow their online stores, tell us about what stores you run and which markets do you target at the moment.
We have three Shopify stores,
Mhm.
and the markets they target are the UK, which is where we're based, and the US, and one in Europe. All three of them are wholesale focused. And what's quite clever is that with Shopify, you can also tweak them so that they can be retail as well. So they can do double duty, which is useful rather than having another site to run. So those three markets are our main focus.
And how challenging is to serve three different markets?
Well, it, it is the challenge that I mean the main challenge from a design and production point of view is that different items appeal in different markets, but as a small business, we can't necessarily offer quite so much choice. So, for example, because we sell homewares and gifts, things
Right.
like placemats in America are much larger. Their homes tend to be bigger, their plates tend to be bigger, but they have more space. They have generally more space available. Whereas in the UK and Europe, we dine differently. So some of it's cultural. So, for example, we've got to be clever about what sizes we offer. We've definitely made mistakes in the past by not getting that right. And also certain colors. So, the foundation of our business is sort of color based. Certain colors appeal more in some markets than others. So, we can fine tune it to a degree. We tend to offer a kind of strategic core offer in all three regions and then remove products that we know won't work and don't offer them in those markets.
Sure. And how do you market your products and find these wholesale customers across different locations?
Well, the traditional method, which still works, is trade fairs. So
Mhm.
these are seasonal. They tend to happen twice a year, so spring and autumn. So we participate in these fairs in both Europe, in either Germany or France, in the UK in London, and in the US in New York. Those fairs are targeted at wholesale businesses. So these would be small stores, department stores, museum stores, and they usually run for a few days. They're quite intensive, but
Mhm.
they are a really good place. I mean, they are literally a market. So it's one of those things where people are walking around and they go, "Oh, that's interesting." They may not have been there to see you specifically, but they're there to look for something. They might be looking to add, colorful glassware or new colorful candles to an offer, and then they find you. So those are the sort of principal points that happen twice a year because we're mostly wholesale focused. Direct retail, in terms of how customers would actually find us, would be obviously by perhaps buying a product in a shop and going, "Oh, this is nice. I wonder if I can find it online." And then, yes, you can. Or through articles in the press. Sometimes journalists will find us and we'll get in a magazine or a feature. And it takes time to build. Obviously, social media can help, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, that kind of thing. But they're all kind of add-ons around the kind of the core offer. And then how do you find it? How do you buy it?
Right. So it's like, do you create or do you get in touch with people before you are going to a trade show to sort of spread out your name a little bit so that they get to know that you are going to be there on the at the trade show, and then they can reach out to you in this particular booth?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, most trade fairs have a digital platform where you can sort of source, let's say you want to find a particular product, you can enter it in. So obviously we have to upload our profiles and, information. So it's kind of like a digital catalog. So buyers can make a judgment about how much time they might need or who they want to target and where to find you. Obviously, there's a bit of random walking around where someone might be going to get a cup of tea and go, hang on, that's interesting. So it's usually they know who's going to be there, or they might have seen the brand in a shop, and then they can say, okay, yes, you're going to be at this fair. And then obviously there's still trade magazines, which I think are probably less effective now than they used to be in terms of them making their decisions about if they're going to find you. And often those platforms do have a link to your wholesale site. So for example, our Shopify wholesale site will be on that website platform, and they can click on that and get onto the front end. And then if we want to capture their details or they want to send us a message, they can. So that everything sort of connects, which is good.
And I suppose you use the Shopify POS app, POS, for getting the orders at the trade show.
Absolutely. And I can't tell you that I think life would be impossible without it. I mean, it would be, I can't imagine doing a trade fair without just the Shopify POS app. It would literally be impossible. I don't know how we did it in the past with paper and a pen, but we did. But that makes it amazing. And also because it connects, you don't have to have another party product or digital platform. And you can control it because you can make products available that aren't in stock yet, but you can still take orders on them. So that direct connection makes it super easy. Obviously, on the iPads that we use at the fairs, it works beautifully, and it's really, you can categorize things in a different way. So you can put things that are new or popular, that you can present that information about your collection in a different way at a fair, which makes it highly effective. And then obviously you've captured all the customers' details, and they all can be pulled out from the back of the main website. So it's great. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
Makes life
I do
really easy.
remember you reaching out to me before your trade show, and you were saying you wanted this thing to get ready. And I think Shopify had this feature where you could only make a certain number of products visible for that particular market so that they don't see other products.
Yeah,
But now, of course, it has a lot of functionality, and you can change prices
yeah,
just based on different markets that you set.
yeah. I know it's a game changer, and I like the fact that it's all part of the same product, if you like. It's all part of Shopify, because there are other platforms designed for taking orders at trade fairs and capturing information. But for me, it makes no sense. It's much better to have like one digital hub that you can have all these different aspects of it working for you and your business. So, and also it's usually very easy and intuitive to use. I get called Tech Queen, which is great, but I never saw myself as that person. It's it does make it much easier to run your business, and in the end,
Right.
that's what we're all trying to do, is make it as simple and easy for us and customers and orders, and how to find things quick and effective, and it really does do that.
Right. And I think once you get an order at a trade show, you can reach out to that customer again because you have their details stored in the system. So, I mean, it makes it so easy for you to reach out to them and sell them more products.
Yeah, you can see what they chose and which trade fair it was, because obviously they can all blur a bit into one, because I think we do four in a row and often they overlap, so it gets a
All right.
bit messy. I mean, each app is connected to its own website, but
Sure.
all the data is there. So in terms of being able to pull out, export the customer information and import it into other systems, it's really not difficult. So it's no, it was a game changer.
And that's great. I know you. you have products that are manufactured in India and Indonesia, and I think maybe in Portugal as well. So,
We
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, the Portugal product range, which is yet another Shopify website, which is not our brand, but that is one that we represent in the UK. So it's a Portuguese company, but we're their kind of representation. So we have, yes, a fourth Shopify site for that.
Okay.
It's a separate brand, but our own products are India, Indonesia, and a teeny tiny bit in China. But
Hmm.
but most of our products are made in India now, which is great because we can go to one country and meet all our lovely suppliers in one place.
Right. So my next question is, how do you find the right partner or the suppliers to manufacture your products?
That in itself is also an adventure. I mean, because we all our products have to have an eco or sustainable aspect, we are only really looking for materials that can fit that criteria. So that narrows it down. And because everything we do is colorful, it has to be a company that can also has good color techniques or good color application. Even if they're natural dyes, that doesn't matter, but it's just that they've got a real grip on that. So we know we're in with the sector that we're in, we know what kind of things we want to make. So it's generally natural materials like ceramics or glass or uh, placemats that are woven out of seagrass or jute. And it's just simply sitting down and talking to the vendors, looking at the quality of the work, trying to understand what kind of other options are available or skill sets, and starting with sampling. So we will send them simple drawings and say, can you try and make a
Hmm.
sample like this, and take it from there. And sometimes that's a bit of a journey. It might be something they've not made exactly like that before or finished in that way before, but it's finding a vendor that wants to do that. If you've got, so for example, with candles, making a white candle is pretty straightforward and nice and easy. But
Right.
making candles multiple colors or different sizes is much more challenging. And most candle vendors are going to be like, you know what, we want a nice, easy, nice, easy projects,
Right.
trouble-free. But then you find a vendor who's like, oh, actually, I want the challenge. That's interesting. They're excited at maybe pushing out to be a bit different, and that has its own advantage because then it means it's special and not everyone's going to try and make it or copy it, which is another inherent function in the industry.
Hmm.
So that's a slow process, but what's really nice is that, like with yourself, we've worked with you for 7 years. When you get a vendor where you're all on the right vibe, that you work with them more and more and more and try and develop new things with them, and can you do this and can we try that, and you sort of grow together. So a lot of our vendors are quite like family friends now.
Mm.
We've worked with them
Yeah,
for
that's
so
great.
long, done so much.
Yeah, like I've always wondered, how people go and find the right suppliers for their product because often there is quality issues, and you are in UK and then you're getting manufactured the products in India or Indonesia, and then once they ship it to you, and then shipment arrives, like how can you be sure if it's going to be good, and if it's not, then what are the things that you do to make it right? So I mean there are all these challenges that go along with having the manufacturers in other countries.
Absolutely. I mean, another a good one is that if they've made for similar businesses before, so if they say, "Oh, we've made this collection for this company,"
Mm-hmm.
um, and obviously there are certificates and accreditations. Sometimes very small businesses don't have them, but if they're fair trade certified or certain ISO levels, it means that they're serious about international business or working with international customers, because often some stores will require certification that the supply chain meets these levels. So that's another good one. I mean, quality, you can pay, and we do use third-party QC reviews to do spot checks on production, just in case somebody's drifting away from what was the original sample to what they're making.
Hmm.
And so that those are more steps, but there's, it's a lot of work because there's a lot, as you say, to manage, and we've got quite a few different vendors and making very, very different things. And there's lots more to go wrong as well, like shipping,
Right.
tornadoes, wars. There's thousands of things that just continuously can happen. COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
It's there's always something, but we're all trying to, do a good job for each other, I think, because that's how it works.
Yeah, and I think just before the interview, we were talking about your challenges with Brexit. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, in the UK, we voted to separate from Europe. Everyone has different opinions about that, but from a business point of view, it's made it more difficult to ship into Europe. So we had to sort of park shipping Europe once the actual event happened, which was a shame because we had a lot of fantastic European customers. And but now we're feeling a bit more capable and ready. And obviously, you've helped us extensively to set up one of the third websites we were speaking about, which is a standalone EU website with its own URL. So it's BritishColorStandardEurope.com, which calls stock from our UK warehouse, but we think we found a way to sort of ship cheaply and effectively in. But it was the right thing to do to first of all wait a bit of time, but secondly to then have an actual separate website where it can be the text can be simpler in case people are translating it into their own language, and obviously completely different prices in euros, different bank account, and so all of the things that go with connecting to a separate site. But thankfully Shopify, so I can still understand it and know what I'm doing and what I need to do. So that was, quite a big thing for us actually to have another dedicated British Colour Standard site.
I mean, I'm really happy that you've come over the challenge of Brexit and then COVID, and you're doing really well, and you're diversified into different markets, uh, which is always a good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, growth. It's positive.
So, what's one thing you've used or implemented on your Shopify store that has dramatically increased your sales or improved the customer shopping experience?
I was thinking about that, and I think for me, the thing that is probably the one of the greatest strengths of Shopify is that it does seem to connect to so much, because it's not possible to just have a website and be like, that's it. Here you go. If you want to buy my stuff, you can find it on this website. You have to be able to customers have to be able to find you on hundreds of platforms or through lots of methods. So they need to be able to find you on Instagram, TikTok, whatever other media they're using. It has to work on a mobile phone. So when you look at the metrics at the back now, almost half of the visitors are using a mobile device, not a laptop or a desktop. So you've got to have a highly functioning website, but it has to connect to all these other things because people are using different devices at different times and different platforms to find your product. And when they find it, they want it to work straight away, or they want to be able to click buy or, add it to some list. So for me, Shopify's real power is the way that it just continuously seems to connect to wherever you need to get your product noticed, and it does it really easily. So we work with lots of third-party sites, and when we get contacted by them, if to be honest, if they don't say that it's compatible with Shopify, I probably stop listening, because I just think it's too much work. If you've got hundreds of products, if you can't do some sort of simple connection, then it's just not going to happen, because you can't do
Right.
it. It's like creating a whole nother website. But Shopify always seemed to be smart in that they make it possible because people will find your brand in lots of different places, and so long as they can all hub back,
Sure.
then you're good, and all the data, everything connects. So for me, that's probably its greatest strength, is that it connects to so much.
Okay. And what's one thing that you thought was important, but actually didn't really help in improving your sales or customer experience? Because I normally get emails from some clients that they obsess over something that they want to do, but actually it might not bring any results. So, according to you, what's one thing that you thought, okay, this is what's going to work, but it didn't?
I think, well, I have to say it didn't work, but I probably gave up very early on, which was everyone was like, videos, forgets, before it was like you have to have beautiful photos, even if it's just white studio shots or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then it's like lifestyle, you've got to have lifestyle, but lifestyle shots are expensive, and also you have to be careful how you prop them because people might be turned off by the lifestyle that you're presenting. So that's fraught with danger as well. And then it was like, forget still images, it's all about videos. You need videos. And it's just like, oh, and actually making videos is a lot of work because it's not just making
Sure.
the video, it's editing
Right.
the video, music that you put on the video. And then they need to be really short because people are scrolling so quickly, or, if it's not quick, their attention is gone. So I think I became quite stressed and concerned that we needed hundreds of videos. We made some. I'm not entirely sure that's true anymore because now, with Instagram Live and TikTok and this, these are more immediate videos. They're not pre-prepared videos. It's more just a person talking to, you with the product in their hand. So in a funny kind of way, that step I think is not required anymore. People just want authentic somebody talking to them about the product so that they
Sure.
feel that they really understand it rather than a professional sort of video. So I'm sort of glad about that. I
Right.
don't think it's as important as it was.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people not to lose focus, because there's there's a lot of people telling you, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And with that, it's like there's so much distraction that comes with it. And if you want to do all those things, you won't be able to do them well. And if you do just
Exactly.
focus on one thing that you are good at, then I think you are able to deliver what your customer wants. Like you're able to focus on what your customer needs are rather than just doing everything.
Exactly. I agree completely. Yeah.
All right. So if somebody is just starting their online store on Shopify, what, according to you, are some of the things that they should focus on?
I think as when you begin, as you say, to keep it simple and not worry too much about what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to think about what's right for your products, and you will make mistakes, but I think you can start. I mean, our first offer was very small. We didn't have lots of pictures, and you can only start. You have to start at the beginning, and get something happening. Don't have to go crazy, and take it from there, because you will start because we would in the back there's all the analytics and the dashboard, and as and you can't speed that up. It takes time for all the Google searches, where are your customers, what are their age range, and all of that information to gather, and you can't just magic it overnight. And then you can start to look and see what keywords are they using to find you, or what's the search term that keeps coming up.
Sure.
And then you can think, okay, what I need to do is add these search terms into, the text for these other products. And then that information is power. And the more that you look at that, or which pictures keep getting clicked on, it might be a certain type of lifestyle picture or a certain color, and then you can start to use that information to move the whole visual offer on and make sure that maybe those products are near the top or at the front, or you do a feature on them. And you can't do that in a rush, and you also can't do it as what we were just saying, which is if you're trying to do too many things all at the same time, like videos and other connections to blogs and whatever. I mean, it becomes quite a lot of content and quite a lot of work quite
Sure.
quickly, and
Right.
you're better off. I mean, if everyone was saying you have to have a blog, you've got to change it, you've got to refresh it all the time. Well, maybe, maybe if that's what people are, you're getting a lot of activity on when you do post a blog, well, then perhaps that's what your customers want to see. But I think you can't do it all at once. No one can. And it's
Right.
best to just start slowly building and looking and reflecting on it and then making those changes, which because it's digital, you can make them quickly. It's not like you've built a house and you've got to knock down a whole load of walls and rebuild it. It's a digital house that you can change quite quickly, and customize in that way. And I think that would be my only advice.
Oh, that's great advice. I think focus is the key. And what's one metric you focus on when you review your analytics dashboard on Shopify?
I think I'm always interested to see how they're finding us,
Mhm.
because we are principally a wholesale business. We're not a consumer. I mean, the consumer is a smaller part of our profile,
Sure.
because I want to know, like, how they found us. How did they, if they found it, because obviously they're finding us by accident, if they're not somebody that already knows us. I mean, more on the consumer site in that regard, because I want to know, okay, what were the search terms they were looking, what words did they put in, what keywords did they put in that made them find us? Because it's a digital world. There's millions of websites, there's
Right.
trillions of put something into Google, what comes up? So I think I do look at that information because I think it's useful and often surprising. You can be like, oh, really? Like we had a product that I think it's battleship gray. It's one of our colors, and it just for some reason had just more. That was the word people were looking for, and I
Oh,
was thinking,
really?
I know it's strange, but
Yeah.
but until you look, you don't know. And I
Right.
do, and if that's working, it's like you found something that people are looking for, or naturally, for whatever reason, I don't know why that word kept coming up at
Hmm.
that time, because obviously it changes. I always think it's worth, for me, I always like to look and see that and then just try and do some little tweaks to help.
Sure.
But it does change all the time, so you can't just do that once and never do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to
So,
constantly be looking at what is bringing the traffic and
yeah,
how you can leverage it.
exactly. Yeah, I do like that.
So, any other piece of advice you would like to share that you think would benefit other Shopify businesses?
I think I mean, for me, it's an incredibly powerful platform with vast amounts of capability. But when you're first starting out, or when you're first launching a website, just to keep it simple, because there's always more things you can add. There's always more options, videos and connections, and there's so much capability that you don't know what's quite going to work for your business the best when you first begin. And I think you can just start simply and look at your analytics, look at what devices people are watching on, or look at which images are getting the most responses, or what are the keywords that are getting the most responses, and build from there. And if you start simply, you can see it more clearly. Whereas if you over try and do everything all at once and have every single add-on and app and feature, it's quite a lot when you're first getting used to how to use a site, not just from the back end as the business, but from the front end and how the consumer perceives it. And just to take it slowly, because there's no rush and you can change things and fix things and adjust them very quickly and very easily most of the time, and then see what effect that has. So just to keep it simple and start from there, not to go crazy straight away.
Yeah,
Because
that's
you could.
great. Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, to keep things simple and not complicate things. And I think for e-commerce business, or I think any other kind of business, you have to be patient enough to get results, because it's not going to be like an overnight thing. So I think that's also the key to finding some success, is just to wait, try a lot of things, and see what brings the result, and then you can, make more modifications later, and then get more results.
I see also for me, because I think, I mean, we're a creative business selling products. So obviously we're designing and developing our products and presenting them. And the extension of the website, which is the digital interface between, and often sometimes the only place people will find your product, maybe they aren't going to a shop, they might, that's how they're going to see you. And to see that shop front face as an extension of the design itself. It's part of the design. It's your design of your brand. It's the way it's, for me, I see it very differently to how I saw it at the beginning. I saw it as just like more of a shop window, where people could reach in and get the products. But I understand and want it to be much more now, like as much a part of designing our products as, it's part of our products. It's how people find them. So it's a much more integral part than I first imagined. But and that's important, because what is important in your brand, whether it's like the materials or the process or the colors or whatever is the thing that you think people need to understand, you can find a way to make the digital side extend that. And there's so many options that you don't know quite what that is when you first begin, and there's no need to go crazy, and just start simply and take it from there. That would be my advice to myself after all
I
these
mean,
years.
yeah, and I think when we started this podcast, and in the beginning, you mentioned that, when you are venturing into different markets, the culture of the place might be different. So the products need to be adapted to suit that culture, or to suit the needs of the people. I think that's also I found that very interesting, and I think that's very important to keep into consideration when you are selling in different markets as well.
Definitely, that without question. And different markets like different things, and you can change and highlight that, easily, which is great. Um, Even if it's language, I mean, certainly, I think, although there are fantastic online translations and, websites that automatically translate it, it's also probably a good idea to keep the language simple, so that the message comes across. If you use too many complicated or long words, or words that might not work in that culture, or make the same kind of sense. So it's
Right.
things like that. I think you learn as you grow. I mean, one of the ones for us, our brand is British Colour Standard, but actually people globally spell it COLOR, which is the US spelling. It's
Right.
more searched as a search term with COLOR, not COLOUR. So
Yes.
therefore, I need to make sure that that's in the data. But you don't know these things until you start looking at the analytics and finding it out. And that's just the way it is. But it's also part of what makes it interesting.
Yes, it is. It is. Do you have any plans on traveling for another trade show that you'll be attending?
We do. I think the next trade show that we're doing ourselves, we've got one in Las Vegas, which
All
is the
right.
first time we've been there, but it's a big convention center. So we're
Hmm.
going to hopefully get to meet more of the West Coast of the US, because obviously it's so big. Just exhibiting on the East Coast is not enough. And then we're very excited to go back to India which we see as our second home, to visit a lot of our suppliers and talk about all the products that we're developing for next year. So yeah, they're my two big trips coming up.
That's great. Jackie, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this podcast. I mean, the information that you shared and the advice and everything I think, is so valuable and will help a lot of people who are not only just starting out, but also running their own Shopify stores at the moment.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you, Sagar.